Scott from New Zealand asks, does GDDR6X make up for having less VRAM? This is probably in reference to the fact that the RTX 3080 has 10 gigs of VRAM and the newly announced RX 6800 XT has 16 gigs of VRAM, but it's GDDR6, not 6X. Well, no, it does not in general. Faster VRAM is going to enable higher frame rates at higher resolutions. If you're loading in new textures and new details, faster VRAM certainly helps, because the faster your chip, the more detail you're going to be able to load at higher frame rates. Let me back up a second and give sort of a base overview. You've got your NVMe SSD, and let's pretend for a minute we're gonna go top of the line. We're going straight to the Samsung 980 Pro NVMe 7 gigabyte per second drive. We're just going straight to the best. We're not going to play any games. So you've got that new 7 gig per second drive, and you've got DDR4 3600 fast RAM on your wonderful Ryzen or Intel system. Your SSD has a memory bandwidth of up to 7 gigabytes per second. Now let's think about that number for a minute. Your main system RAM has a memory bandwidth of about 28 gigabytes per second for 3600. It's actually about 25 for 3200. So you've got a little less than 30 gigabytes per second for your DDR4. The GDDR6X on an RTX 3080 has over 700 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth.
From 20 to 700?
Yeah. How many times have you heard people ask the question, but doesn't RTX IO or direct storage mean that you don't need more VRAM because it can just load off your SSD? Folks, if that were true, you wouldn't need VRAM at all, because it could just load it from your main system RAM. Your main system RAM is faster than your VRAM. The benefit of direct storage, the benefit of DirectX IO, is that it allows the loading of textures from the SSD directly to VRAM, bypassing the CPU, lowering CPU utilization, and making more efficient use of your resources. This is a good thing. It frees up the PCI Express bus, and it has a few other benefits. But you're still loading from a 7 gigabyte per second drive versus your 700 gigabyte per second VRAM. This is a 100x difference. You are not going to be loading the textures for your game off your SSD. You can't even do it off of your main system RAM. So this whole idea that faster VRAM is a solution doesn't work if you run out of VRAM. Because the question is, does having faster RAM make up for not having enough RAM?
Yes.
Well, here's a good correlation. If you can have DDR4 5000 CL10 for the sake of discussion, which would be impossible actually, because the electron's not that fast, but pretend you could.
Right.
But you could only have 8 gigabytes of it. Would that make up for everything having to swap to SSD after that?
Probably not.
Not even close. For modern games, for Call of Duty Watch Dogs Legion, for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, it wouldn't matter how fast your RAM is, because as soon as you run out of it, you start swapping to your much slower SSD.
Right.
What that fast VRAM does is, once the textures are loaded in RAM, once all the data is loaded into the VRAM of the card, the chip gets direct access to them and can give you higher frame rates with fewer stutters and better overall performance in a highly detailed world. Slower VRAM would mean that your frame rates might be starved because the chip might be VRAM memory bandwidth, but the VRAM is still way faster than anything else on the system. Somebody actually asked me yesterday, after the on-chip cache of your CPU, after the L1, L2, and L3 cache of your CPU, what's the fastest memory in your system? Mm-hmm. And I said the VRAM on your video card is the fastest memory in your system.
Yeah, I remember you.
It's not your main system RAM. It's not your new Gen 4 NVMe. You've seen a bunch of people excited about the Gen 4 drive, saying, well, this is going to fix everything. The speed difference between a Gen 3 and a Gen 4 NVMe drive compared to the other components in your system, it's not that big of a deal. I've tested it. I have those drives. I've done RAID 0. I've done standalone drives. I've got the new Samsung drive. It's nice. It's not the thing. So It's one of the reasons why I'm hyped about the new Big Navi cards, because they're putting 16 gigs of RAM even on their $580 card.
They are.
And I think that if you want a card for the next 3+ years for AAA games, you'll be able to have those Unreal Engine 5 looking graphics. You remember how pretty that was?
Very.
You're not going to want to be short of VRAM for that.
No, not
Because
at all.
all that detail has to be loaded into the GPU's memory.
Yes, it does.
There you go.
There you go.